You know that classic job interview question, right? How would you measure the success of an incident management process? It's a great question because, honestly, knowing how to measure performance is the only way you can start to improve it. So, okay, let's dive into this and really give you a solid, structured way to think about it.
So, here's our game plan. We're going to start by moving from chaos to control. Then, we'll get right into the nitty-gritty, the top 10 KPIs you need to know. After that, we'll see how to actually use that data to make real improvements. And finally, we'll wrap it all up in something called the improvement flywheel. It's a really clear path from start to finish.
All right, let's get started with Section 1, From Chaos to Control. This is all about why measurement is absolutely, 100% the first step you have to take.
I want you to just take a second and think about your own team. Are you guys constantly in firefighter mode, just reacting to whatever pops up? Or do you have a system that actually helps you get ahead of the problems? It's a simple question, but the answer is incredibly revealing. See, the real goal here is to transform your team from firefighters into, well, fire marshals. You want to stop putting out fires and start preventing them from ever happening in the first place. But you can't do that if you're flying blind. Measurement, that's your map. It shows you exactly where the hotspots are and guides you to a much more controlled, proactive state.
Okay, so that brings us right into Section 2. Now that we know why we need to measure, the next logical question is, what do we measure? Think of these top 10 KPIs as the dashboard for your team's performance.
We're going to walk through 10 key metrics. These aren't just random numbers. Together, they give you a complete 360-degree view of how your incident management process is really doing. These are some of the most powerful indicators you can possibly track. Now, we can break these 10 down into 3 little groups. First up, speed and efficiency. This is all about how fast you are. We're looking at things like, are you hitting your service level agreements, or SLAs? What's your average time to resolve an issue, especially when you break it down by priority? And a huge one, first call resolution. What percentage of the time are you fixing the problem on the very first try?
Next, let's talk about quality and impact. It's not just about being fast, it's about being good. So, what percentage of your incidents are the really big, disruptive ones, the major incidents? How often are your frontline folks having to escalate issues up the chain? And maybe the most important metric of all, how do your users actually feel about the support they got? That's what a customer satisfaction score is all about.
And finally, our third group of KPIs looks at the long-term health and, let's be honest, the cost of your process. Are your fixes actually sticking, or are people constantly reopening tickets? Is that backlog of old, unresolved incidents getting bigger and bigger? And here's a critical one. Are you connecting those repeat incidents to a single underlying problem record? Because that's how you find the root cause and stop the bleeding for good. And of course, what's the actual dollar cost per incident? These numbers tell you if what you're doing is actually sustainable.
Okay, so you have all this data. Your dashboard is lit up with numbers. But so what? Data by itself is just noise. Section 3 is where the magic happens. This is all about turning those metrics into real, concrete action.
Let's use a real-world example. You look at your dashboard and you see that your first call resolution, your FCR, is in the gutter. People are having to call back 2, 3, maybe 4 times for the same issue. So now what? What do you actually do about it?
This is where it gets really cool. We can set up specific data triggers that point directly to a recommended action. So, for example, if you see the same kind of incident happening over and over again, that's a trigger. The action? Create an incident model, a template to handle it way faster next time. If you keep getting slammed with high-impact incidents, that's a trigger to go update your major incident procedure. And for our low FCR problem, that's a trigger to improve your knowledge articles or maybe get your team some better training. See? It's a direct line from data to action, no guesswork.
And this all brings us to our final piece of the puzzle, the improvement flywheel. The whole point is that this isn't a one-and-done project. It's a system you build in your culture to make getting better a continuous, automatic process.
The process becomes this simple but incredibly powerful loop. You measure your performance with your KPIs. You analyze that data to look for the triggers we just talked about. You take a specific, targeted action based on those triggers. And then, and this is the key, you repeat. You go right back to measuring to see if your change actually worked. It's this cycle that drives real, lasting improvement. So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's a shift in mindset. Tracking metrics, this isn't about pointing fingers or trying to blame someone when a number looks bad. It's a constructive tool. It's about giving your team the clarity it needs to get better, one small cycle at a time.
And that brings me to my final question for you. Looking at this whole framework, just think about your own world for a minute. What is the one metric, the one dial on that dashboard, that if you could just move the needle on that one thing, it would have the biggest, most positive ripple effect on everything else your team does? Because that, right there, that's probably the best place to start.